Do you know this song?
This is from the guy who got famous on the TikTok. Dog walker dude, or he was on a skateboard. Remember that? He was drinking a...
Dog walker dude?
Yeah, no, the Latino
Dogface.
cat. Dogface, yep. He made this song famous. It's a good song.
Do you know who it is?
Some lady. Starts with an A,
Well,
right?
you're not wrong.
I love
The name
you
starts
so
with an
much.
A?
Can I be real? I love you so much.
Band. She
Oh, it's a band?
performs in the band.
Not Mac Dre.
No, it's not Mac.
San Jose State's own.
It's a car, and then you add Mac to the end.
I don't know. Those are those cars.
Fleetwood.
A Fleetwood Mac.
DV Nicks. Yep.
Fleetwood Mac. I don't want to drive Fleetwood. I got a Batmobile.
No, I'm just...
My Charger.
I didn't say you drove it.
I know that. Just, That song, Fleetwood Mac. That song.
I
That dog
can
made
really
him famous.
picture you playing that in the
Or
Tesla.
he made the song famous. I do feel like he made the song
He
famous.
did make... Well, he brought it back.
Well,
it was
I-
already a famous song.
Was it? Because I had
Now
never heard
it's
the song before.
TikTok-ish.
Yeah, but now when I saw him on a skateboard during the pandemic, having a rough day playing that song, I was like, wow, that song's pretty cool. And then Dogface got famous, and then the song was like, oh, okay. No, Challengers are not better than Chargers. Stop.
What's the difference between those two vehicles?
Two-door, four-door.
Two-door, four-door. Gotcha.
Challengers, two-door. Chargers, four-door.
And yours is a Charger?
Charger, four-door. Four-door. Yeah, Fleetwood Mac. That's a good song. Really good song. I like it.
Go.
Like it. It was good. Makes you feel good. Put you nice at ease.
That Arnold Schwarzenegger lives forever in my dome.
Go, Chargers, go. Let's get to Gene and Oakley real quick before we get to Grant Cohn. Gene, what's up, Uncle Gene?
Hey, morning, fellas. So I want to finish your sentence, Joe.
Okay.
If the Niners don't win the Super Bowl this year, it'll be because of Pat Mahomes. As far as expectations for the season, or I should say, what I would consider a successful season depends on expectations with me. So I think we all expect us to get at least to the NFC Championship game. And whether or not we win it, it's going to depend on, assuming we're going to play Philadelphia again, whether we play here or there. If we play here, I expect us to win. We get to the Super Bowl. Much of a Brock Purdy fan as I am, even if he plays at pretty much an elite level as he had last year, for the majority of this season, I still have a hard time seeing him outplaying Mahomes. Now, I mean, you could look at the outlier Super Bowls like Nick Foles beating Tom Brady, but for the most part, I would expect us to really not be able to get past Kansas City. But if we at least get as far as the championship game and even win the championship game, I would consider the season a success.
Boy, we would not consider it. Uncle Gene, I love you. But if they lose the Super Bowl, nobody's saying it's a successful season. Not after rip. Maybe even not until August. You may be looking at something.
If you made it to the Super Bowl, I might be a little different. Look, do I want to win the Super Bowl? Of course I want to win the
You're
Super Bowl.
different than me.
Would I be disappointed? Of course. Making it to the Super Bowl is an accomplishment.
It is, but the teams
Come
talk
on.
about winning the Super Bowl.
No,
They've
no
all
doubt.
talked about winning it. We're not giving out participation trophies.
No
All of
doubt.
a sudden, it's cool to finish in second place.
So last year, the Eagles, let me just add, and I know they're different.
Eagle fans are pissed about losing that game.
Of course they are.
They would never
But
live
it wasn't
that down.
a great year.
Yeah, but they don't care. They do not care.
It's one of the greatest games ever.
They do not care. They lost the Super Bowl.
I think we're arguing two different things.
No,
Meet
you
me
said
in the middle
was
here. It was a great year. Yes, they didn't complete the ultimate goal, which was depressing and frustrating, but that doesn't mean it negated the success of the entire year.
Okay.
Does it?
Well, have fun. Well, I guarantee you, everybody in Philadelphia ain't talking about the success they had. They're talking about what could have happened.
I think they're pretty optimistic about Jalen moving forward.
They
as
are
well.
feeling good about Jalen, but they're still disappointed. I don't know. Let's ask Greg Cohn
Okay.
about it.
Okay.
Greg Cohn covers the Niners for Sports Illustrated, does a great job. We look forward to his videos right off the practice field once practice is over. You tell me, Grant. You tell me. Is this season a success if the 49ers make the Super Bowl and lose?
I mean, no, I don't think so. These are the 49ers. They've been waiting for 25 years, almost 30 years to win a Super Bowl. And it's like every year they tell us they have the best roster in the league. Man, this roster is stacked. They have all pros at every position. And the only reason they're able to put together a roster like that is because they don't really pay for a quarterback. But then Kyle Shanahan comes out about a week ago and says that Brock Purdy's the real deal. So what is the excuse? We all would say, well, we don't really know if they have a quarterback yet, but the head coach himself says the quarterback is the real deal. I wouldn't even say that about Dak Prescott.
Wow.
I wouldn't say that about Kirk Cousins. So that means he's like a top 8 quarterback in the league. Then win the Super Bowl, man. Like, you're supposed to be the best coach in the league, and you have the best roster. If you're the best coach, you should be able to get it to play above its ability. But they've fallen short so many times. I think that should be the expectation.
Well, see, and that's interesting because we were just talking about the real deal, and some people think we're lingering on to those comments. And I'm trying to understand why Shanahan said that Brock Purdy was a real deal. And I'll give him this. From the Miami to the Seattle wildcard game, that offense averaged 34.5 points. Now, I get the defense shut out a lot of guys in the second half, and they had a lot of help for the defense. But the offense did look a lot more explosive under Brock Purdy than it did Jimmy Garoppolo. So I could kind of understand why he would say, wow, Brock Purdy is the real deal. Don't you get that, Grant?
Yeah, but there were times, it was like 7 games. Like,
yeah,
he put up 44
size.
or something against the Jacksonville Jaguars the year they went to the AFC Championship. Like, he put up 48 against the Saints in New Orleans. Like, he had moments like that. I still think you got to look at Brock Purdy and say, yeah, he's a poised, mature leader. But in terms of his physical skill set, like, come on. What, are we all just going to ignore that and pretend like it's not, he doesn't have the weakest arm of any starting quarterback in the league? We're just going to pretend that doesn't happen? At best, is he a franchise quarterback? I don't think so. The only reason he's so good is because he has great players all around him because he's playing for NFL minimum wage. Once you give him a real contract and the team isn't as good, is he carrying it? I don't think so. But, hey, maybe he's the right quarterback for right now. I just doesn't – like, I go to camp every day, and I'm waiting for him to light it up, and he doesn't. He's okay. He's not bad. He's not good. I just don't think any of these quarterbacks are good enough to win the Super Bowl this year, which should really be the only thing we're talking about. Like, not whether Brock's better than Trey or that Trey's better than Sam. No, it doesn't matter. Are any of these guys good enough to win a Super Bowl, and it doesn't look like it yet?
That's interesting. You've been covering this team for a long time, going back to the Harbaugh era. You've been there every single day. You've seen a variety of quarterbacks. You've seen a variety of coaches, a variety of quarterback coaches, offensive coordinators. You've seen a lot, and that's why I want to ask you these things. Like, in terms of, like, you're talking about lighting it up in practice, to me, and my interpretation of real deal, because I feel like we are a little stuck on this, and I am for a reason. Like, you don't just say that flippantly, and then everybody's comparing this guy at the podium, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about guys that are all-time talents. 15 years of excellence. 15 years of excellence. I think we underrate how difficult it is to be a Drew Brees, right? Who has the 1 Super Bowl. Like, I expect real deal players to pop at practice. That's just me. And I gave you leniency for trying to be a gamer on game day. Garcia wasn't the greatest practice player. Alex Smith, I know, looked good at practice, but it didn't translate to the games. When you're at practice, does this guy pop?
No, none of them pop. They're all really inconsistent, and you can blame, they could say that they're facing a really good defense, but it just seems like every day a different quarterback is the best quarterback on the field. And when they're good, the best they do is check it down and hit that 15-yard throw over the middle. Like, you never see any of these quarterbacks throwing the ball past the safeties, hitting really tight windows 20, 25 yards down the field because they're not those kind of quarterbacks. Trey Lance is the closest to that, but, like, he has his own issues. Because really, he hasn't been developed in 2 years. It's almost like he's a rookie right now who hasn't played in like 4 years. That's Trey Lance. And he's finally making strides, but he doesn't look like a guy who's going to get there this year. Maybe if they had taken this approach with him 2 years ago, he would be the guy right now, but it still feels like he's behind the curve.
Wow.
Which is frustrating for this team.
Wow. That's shocking here. So what are you looking forward to in this scrimmage? You're going. I'm guessing you're heading down to Vegas, right, for the Innistrad scrimmage. What do you think, Jimmy Garoppolo? What do you think Garoppolo tomorrow and Friday does when he sees Kyle Shanahan? Does he give him a nice hug, a nice embrace? Do they shake hands? Do they get the eye contact? What happens between Shanahan and Jimmy G?
That's interesting. They're both political, so maybe they'll like make it a photo op just to smile and shake hands, or maybe they're petty. Like, I think the minute Jimmy Garoppolo says your plays freaking suck, man, during the game, and I think that was the end. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is no big embrace, that they just basically ignore each other. And it'd be interesting to know what happens when he faces that defense. Like, does Fred Warner taunt him?
Right.
The problem is I have to focus on the mediocre quarterback competition because that's really what matters. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is history for the 49ers, and I'll find out his stats, but I need to know I need to know how Brock Purdy goes 9 for 16, because other people are going to say it's the greatest 9 for 16 performance you've ever seen in a practice field. I'm going to have to see that for myself.
Grant, just your interpretation, and I'm not asking you to evaluate other people's perspectives and things like that, but It feels like to me we get afraid to say the obvious in the media, just in general. Just as the rogue outsider at times looking around, like, why are we afraid to just call a spade a spade? Like, for example, certain guy, the pitching staff for the Giants heading into this year, everyone's like, oh, it's the deepest they've ever had. Me and Bunty are laughing. Like, Sean Manaea, this is the worst pitcher in baseball last year.
Ross Stripling,
like no one wanted to give it. Point being, why are we afraid to just say all three of these guys kind of look suspect right now? Why are we afraid to say that out loud?
Because fans don't want to hear that. Fans want to hear that all the quarterbacks look great and that the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl this year. And why would you want to be the guy in August raining on that parade and betting against the 49ers? Like, locally, I'm the only one that kind of rebels in doing that because it feels like a safe bet given what the Niners have done every freaking year. But no, every year people want to say this is the year everything's going to be okay, everything's going great. And I just feel like Brock in particular, like this happened with Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember? People were afraid to call a spade with Jimmy Garoppolo for years. I mean, It wasn't even that long ago that people were saying definitively that he was better than Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr. Yeah. He's not. And it took the 49ers finally jettisoning him 6 years into his tenure for people to realize that he was just mediocre. And I feel like people are doing the same thing with Brock Purdy. They think he's going to be here a while. They're afraid to call it what it is because the starting quarterback of the Niners is a powerful person and he's going to be here. But come on. I mean, this is Jimmy Garoppolo redux.
Wow. Grant Cohn, covering the Niners for Fan Nation, part of Sports Illustrated. Catch him on YouTube and Twitter. Grant Cohn, he does a great job on the YouTube. They're hilarious. The videos coming off the practice field, I can't get enough of them.
No, it's the best content out there.
They're funny.
I told him last week, I was off, and I watched every one of his videos on YouTube last week. You do a great job. I really, so entertaining. I enjoy it.
Enough ass kissing. That's enough.
No, this is my guy.
He's going to start charging us soon.
He's going to start charging us
Sam Darnold.
We won't be able to afford him. We can't even get air conditioning in the studio.
So Sam Darnold, because I knew it. Grant, excuse me. I knew it when Sam Darnold signed. And I looked at Shasky the day he signed. I goes, he didn't sign here to be the third string quarterback. And he thinks that it's a competition. And we've heard certain segments of the media say, boy, he has a lively arm. The liveliest arm I've ever seen in 49ers camp. Which I was like, damn, really? Okay. Maybe I've been watching something differently here. What is going on with Sam Darnold? Does he have a shot to win his backup job? He's been terrible?
He's terrible, man. Like, this is what Sam Darnold does. He's been around. He's been through a bunch of training camps. He knows how to get glowing reports. What you do is you check the ball down as fast as possible. Because the reporters, they just say what your completion percentage was. 8 of 11, 9 of 12. They never say yards. It's never in any context. So it's all about completion percentage. And I think that's what Kyle Shanahan wants anyway, because that's what Brock Purdy does. And then don't throw picks. So if you check the ball down immediately, don't throw picks. That's what he's doing. Anytime he tries to throw the ball downfield and show that arm talent that he's supposed to have, the most arm talent ever, like it's a joke. He's worse than Brock Purdy, which is crazy. And nothing against Brock Purdy, but all these physical gifts that Sam Darnold has, who cares? You don't use them.
Well,
you're not particularly mobile. You don't have a good downfield arm. You're just a waste of talent. I'm so sorry, man. At least Trey Lance is improving. I don't know what Sam Darnold's trying to do.
Well, that's what that was fascinates me. We saw 5 years of tape on him, and I know the Jets were dysfunction, but Carolina wasn't much better. But at the same time, I was like, damn, he's lost 12. He's fumbled the ball 18 times in his last
90 turnovers.
15 times in his last 18 games. He's fumbled. Now, opponents have recovered 6 of those fumbles. That's a lot of balls on the turf. That's a lot of wasted downs, snaps, reps, you name it. And then 55 interceptions and 61 touchdowns. Like I saw last week, Greg, you would love this. Get up. Who was it? The lineman on ESPN. Damian Woody said, my bold proclamation is Sam Darnold will lead the Niners to the Super Bowl. And I go, dear God, what are we in for?
Blaine Gabbert 2.0.
What are we in for? So do you even think Sam Darnold's going to make this roster?
He's like Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense that, like, if he gets the ball out of his hands immediately to the first read who's right in front of him, he's okay. But as soon as, the down extends and he's, still has the ball, you think, okay, here's a playmaker. He can run around. He can throw from different arm slots. Yeah, but you can't trust him. He makes the worst decisions ever. First play yesterday, he gets flushed out of the pocket to his left, runs as fast as he can to the sideline, keys the ball into double coverage, and gets picked. It's like, yeah, there it is. Thank you very much, Sam Darnold. Do that in one game, and you're never going to play again.
You think he even makes his final 53-man roster?
I think he will. I mean, I don't. They sort of committed themselves to him. They gave him more money than they gave Nate Sudfeld last year. I think he's here, but he could absolutely be inactive on game days, which would be embarrassing.
Oh, my God.
All right.
And that's all because Trey Lance did this work that no one expected he was going to do and made the strides that no one expected he was going to make. And now he's improving while Sam Darnold is checking the ball down.
Well, it's funny you brought up Trey Lance. Real quick, Shasky. Quincy Avery's been very outspoken.
Good
Is
for
he
him.
still working with Trey Lance?
I don't know that he is. It seems like Trey Lance is now working with Jeff Christensen. Maybe that's why Quincy Avery has a lot to say.
I would hire
He
Jeff
said
Christensen.
a lot there about Kyle Shanahan and some of the drills. I find it very shocking that Quincy Avery's coming out and being so open about some of the drills and some of the lack of development when it comes to Trey Lance, Grant.
I've talked to other coaches that had the same exact takeaway on some of these drills. Like, you've seen that one, they put those pads between
It makes no sense.
the quarterback's feet and they sort of straddle back and forth. And the whole thing with Trey is he's trying to learn to not overstride, to not overextend that front leg. And that particular drill reinforces all the bad mechanics he's been trying to correct. And it just kills me. They've been doing it for years. It's a Shanahan thing. And it just shows you they really don't. They're not that good at coaching quarterbacks. It's not what they do. They're more of a running back, play action coaching. They're not Andy Reid. I don't think they. I think quarterback gurus look at the Shanahans and their drills and they're like, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. I'd like to know what Jeff Christensen has to say off the record about what the Niners did with Trey Lance the last 2 years. He'd probably laugh or cry. I don't know. Maybe it's tragic in his eyes.
I'd hire that man in a heartbeat if I ran an NFL team and I had any question marks on my quarterback situation. There's no doubt about it. Jeff Christensen has done a lot of really good work with Trey Lance. It feels like offensive, defensive line is an afterthought. And to me, it's the biggest story on the team, bigger than the quarterback and everything like that. You look at Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl, offensive, defensive line suffocated teams. Kansas City, obviously Chris Jones on that defensive line. Their offensive line was actually very underrated last year. The Eagles clearly had elite offensive and defensive line play. Nick Bosa not being signed, to me, is the biggest story that no one wants to talk about. Everyone's saying it's no big deal. I think it's a huge deal. I get the Niners have earned the benefit of the doubt of this track record of signing all these guys. This is Bosa. What are we waiting on? He has been a grand slam pick, number 2 overall. You know what the market is. You know what the money is. He's the best player on the team or second best player on the team. What's going on there? And then, simultaneously, who's playing opposite him? Their defensive line is so important to their success. I feel like this is the big, don't look over here. But this, to me, feels like the biggest story of the year.
With Bosa, I kind of interpret it as him dragging his feet. I don't think the Niners are. I think they'd love to have him in right now. I'm sure they want to pay him what he wants. I think Bosa doesn't necessarily want to be there right now. And there's other defensive linemen who have to get paid and get extensions. And I think he feels if he waits and is the last one, he'll get the most money. So that's what's going on with him. Opposite him is they don't have anything, and that's what's really interesting. Who's going to step up? And you can't really tell in training camp because it's Colton McKivitz versus Drake Jackson. So if one wins that rep, you're like, is either one good? I don't even know. So what I do see is Spencer Burford getting worked every day by Eric Armstead, and that's another thing. Does that mean that Spencer Burford isn't good? Because Armstead really is, but there's a lot of players like Armstead in the league. So that right side of the offensive line is really suspect. It's hard to tell whether Taco Charlton or Drake Jackson is good because who are they going against? Colton McKivitz. So I guess they really need Drake. The thing about Nick Bosa was interesting is Kyle Shanahan said he's never really had a training camp. Well, that's not really true.
He was there last year.
He's always been around the team. He's always been around the team, whether he's healthy or not. Now you have a new defensive coordinator, has totally different principles. They have different ideas of how to use Bosa, but he can't learn any of that stuff. Steve Wilkes has no exposure to Bosa. I'm sure he'll be great when he comes back, but you'd like the new defensive coordinator to be around your best player.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point there. That's a good point. Trey, who's going to start Sunday? Who is it going to be? Trey at quarterback?
Trey. If they start Sam Darnold, it'll just start a whole controversy nationwide. They can't do that.
Is the Brandon Allen talk done? Are we done with Brandon Allen?
Nah, Kyle Shanahan likes to troll people, so I would imagine 1 quarter for Trey, 1 quarter for Sam Darnold, and then an entire half for Brandon Allen. So we can really appreciate his game.
If you could ask Jed York one question, okay, our boss is coming into town, the Odyssey boss.
Yeah, we got to dress up today, Grant.
Yeah, we're all pretending to be, more professional than we are. And you had the opportunity to have the guts to be able to say one thing to the boss, right? That's always a great question. Nobody ever has the guts to say, hey, are we getting bonuses? Are we making more money? What's the thing you would ask Jed York? One question.
Do you have confidence in Kyle Shanahan's ability to find and develop a franchise quarterback? And why?
It's been.
What do you think he says to that? Like, what do you think the answer is there? No, it's a great question.
I've never talked to John York. Does he even care? I have no idea. I have no idea if he even watches I mean, like, I don't know. Jed would probably have something to say, but I don't know what John would say. Probably yes. I mean, I think they're very happy with Kyle Shanahan. I think the Yorks are extremely happy. They're making money. No one's questioning them. They were a joke like not that long ago. Their stadium was empty. Everyone said sell the team. Now they're making tons of money. I think they're okay being, among the best teams in the league, even if they're not the best.
Wow. Greg Cohn here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. A lot of good stuff there. Hey, so when are you heading to Vegas? Are you already out there or are you going out there today?
I'm flying out today.
All right.
5 o'clock flight, yeah.
Good deal. We'll be watching your videos out there. Should be fun. Go say hi to Jimmy for us.
Yeah, I will. Hey, Jimmy, it's so good to see you, man. I always loved you, always appreciated you. You never got the respect you deserve, man. Go get him.
Next time we talk, the Cabo click I think is an interesting one. We've talked about that real deal, that real deal comment. A part of me thinks that when they had Jimmy throwing on the sideline last year, that Cabo click, there's like a 6-7 group of guys on this team that kind of really dictate who plays, confidence level, this, that, and the other. I think they were like, hey, man, Jimmy's over there. I kind of like it. And, well, I don't know. Are you sure about this Trey guy? And I'm sure they were probably, right in feeling that way. I feel like a part of this real deal statement was to kind of tamp down some of that, maybe some of the question marks that are coming out right now. It's just a theory I have. I have nothing to go on that other than my own gut.
It was so strange because it was in response to a question about Brock Purdy's health. Just like, when is he going to be fully ready to throw every day without restrictions? And Kyle was just like, pretty soon. Like, and he just got really defensive and just said, look, we're not worried about Brock Purdy. He's the real deal. It's like, hey, no one asked that, man. What are you talking about? So, again, this is all comes back to Kyle. Whether or not Brock's the real deal, it's about the fact that Kyle said it after 7 or 8 starts. Man, you don't know. Remember Colin Kaepernick? He went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He came in halfway through his second year, went to the freaking Super Bowl, played great, almost won. Was it Ron Jaworski? He said he's going to be the greatest quarterback
ever. Read it on ESPN all day.
You don't know what's going to happen to these quarterbacks because you saw 8 games.
Yeah.
So I think that quote's going to follow around Kyle Shanahan for the rest of his career. And if it turns out that Brock Purdy isn't the real deal, then that's going to be another thing that Kyle Shanahan, has to wear forever.
This quarterback saga is never going to end.
It's the best.
It's never going to end. I thought Trey Lance was a guy. Drafted him. We're all happy. Remember Greg Cohn that first practice? This is just fun, guys.
It was.
This is on one knee. This is just fun. And the fun ended very, very quickly. Grant, safe travels to Vegas, man.
You're doing a great job, man.
Thanks, guys. I always appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
The best. He's the best.
This is just fun.